Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Katelyn from Florals.com and we're back with summer season scrapping with myself and Sarah Scraps. Today I'll actually be sharing a double 6x8 page layout, and as many of you know, here in the US the 4th of July is coming up, and if you're looking for some inspiration, here it is. If you guys have not seen our prompt list yet for this series, I'll have it at the end of this video. It's also over on my blog and over on Instagram if you haven't seen it yet. But today's prompt that I'm tackling is gathering. There are so many different gatherings that happen in the summer season, and if you're having one, hosting one, going to one, make sure you pull out your camera. You won't regret getting a nice group photo of the occasion. But for today's, I'm actually working on a mini album that I'm gifting to my brother and sister-in-law from their wedding a couple years ago, and they had a very patriotic wedding. And what works really well is I have a lot of patriotic stuff pulled from my stash for this page in particular. I'm starting with a Pink Fresh Studio background there. It's a little hard to see, but there's actually a nice sort of grid style background on there with a geometric pattern in a very light blue. What I also want to note is that the ephemera is from Bo Bunny. I've had this for a long time. I don't typically gravitate towards Bo Bunny, but the florals in this collection are just so pretty. And again, the Americana theme with the red, white, and blue. Now, one of the things I struggle with, particularly on 6x8 pages, is the layering. I love printing 4x6 photos, but it can get a little bit difficult when you're trying to layer something that's already the width of the page. So here I'm going through some of my other Pink Fresh Studio stuff to see if I can find this similar light blue tone. And I'm also looking to see if I can find any reds that match the colors in these photos. You'll note there's an American flag in the first photo, and then the second photo there's actually a burgundy house. So really trying to match between those two is a little bit difficult. Luckily, again, that Bo Bunny collection has quite a bit of stuff in it. I wish I had the papers to go with it because that would make this a ton smoother. But since we don't, we're going to rifle through our stash and work with what we have, because that is the best moment when you use something you already have. Now, like I said, I have a couple different shades I can work with here. I've got the different shades of blues, reds, and then green is an option, although I'm hoping to exclude it from this page in my design. I really wanted that 4th of July theme to come through from their patriotic wedding. And I ended up finding this guy from Pink Fresh Studio. It's a very similar sized pattern as my background, but what really works nicely is this one is circle based versus more of the square base that we had on the other pattern. So I pull out one of those. I actually think about considering pulling two of those out, but since I'm going to do some layering without the full sheet, I'll be able to manage to just use one 6x6 page. I'm also going through some of my newer embellishments that I haven't touched a lot of yet and looking for some gold accents. Again, red is really hard to match amongst color schemes because there are so many different shades of it, but looking through what I have, labels, etc., especially if you're looking for red, don't forget to look at your Christmas stuff. Sometimes you'll be able to find grand things in there that really work for your layout, even though they're typically Christmas themed. You might be able to find something like this label set I have here on my desk, which is a Christmas theme, but red labels work for any time of year. So I end up cutting some 1-inch panels of that light blue pattern as the base for these photos so they don't feel like they're floating. This really gives that shelf effect so that, one, they're grounded, it doesn't feel like these people are floating in their photo, and two, also helps give a spot for embellishments to come out of. Now, you want to be careful when you're adding embellishments like these. A lot of times what I find, especially with photos that I printed a long time ago that I've had for a while, is if you accidentally set a sticker on top of it and try to peel it off, it will rip some of the top coloring off of the photos. So just be super careful if you're doing some planning on your page, whether that's using wax paper or just using some dusting tool to make it so it doesn't have any stickiness at all left to it. Be extra careful out there and let's not ruin our photos. So I'm going to line both of these pages up so I can have a perfectly straight, quote unquote, because it will be crooked. Every time I've done one of these 6x8 pages, I end up cutting something crooked, which is totally okay. We're not a perfectionist around here, and we'll make something work the best we can. But now that we have that blue in place, I can actually figure out where these photos are going to sit on the page and embellish around them. You'll notice I pulled out a chipboard piece and some washi tape. This red washi tape has really been a great element within this album. And if you're wishing to see more of this album, I've shared more pages over on my Patreon, which you can find linked in the description box below, because this is a mini album, but it's not so many. I have tons of pictures to scrapbook from it, so I'll be working on this over on Patreon throughout the coming months. So I get the first photo glued down. As you can see, not every 4x6 photo is 6 inches across, so I do have a small gap in the center. If that did bother me as much, I would trim the background papers as well, but I just live with it. a small gap in the middle. Luckily, with a D-ring album like we use typically nowadays in scrapbooking, I don't have to worry too much about it because the pages will be so separated in the middle, unlike a typical post-bound album where the pages are smack dab next to each other. One of the things I don't often do with my ephemera pieces or sticker pieces is I don't typically cross them across 2 pages. Again, because of the same reason, a D-ring album has that gap in the middle, whereas a post-bound album does not. So back in the post-bound album days, you used to run everything all the way across, cut it in half, pictures, journaling, whatever it may be, your titles, and you would just cut it down the middle between the 2 pages because that was the design you could do. But now it feels a little bit off because of that gap. Here I'll be doing it again today, and again, when I'm done with this album, I'll try to do a flip through, and you'll be able to see some of that experience between the D-ring album gap versus a post-bound album gap. But as I get this washi tape in place, I'm really happy with the bright red. I think it pulls more of the flag color than the house color, but again, it works all the way around no matter what. Here for the blue one, I end up putting adhesive on the back of it and then splitting it in half. And that way I can make sure it fits perfectly. Now, if you're really worried about the way something sort of fits onto a page, you might want to use something like a Xyron sticker maker that'll cover the entire back of your ephemera piece with adhesive, the tape kind of adhesive, especially if you're not fond of liquid glue, but it'll really help make sure it sticks down on the edges, especially if you have an open face album. This one will be in page protector, so I'm less worried about that, but if that's something on your mind, you may want to consider it. Here's where I start figuring out where I'm going to put the title for this. And what's really nice is I actually have a bunch of little pieces from that Bo Bunny set. So I want to make sure I'm using some of the florals like I did in the center, but also some things in the top left to have some balance. And then I also have these simple stories 4th of July stickers, which all of this 4th of July stuff came in so handy because you don't often have that many photos from 4th of July, but luckily I have this album to scrapbook for them to make use of all those beautiful supplies. So I grabbed some stars, again, that was part of their wedding theme, and ended up those next to my floral cluster. And the title right now is just Today on the right hand side, but I wanted to layer it with this blue floral. You don't see it here, but her actual arrangement, her flower arrangement was similarly to these colors, so it worked out really, really well. And again, to balance all the things at the bottom, we want something at the top, whether that be more of a title, whether that be, like this case, I'm using this little banner guy, as well as some of the other small star pieces and heart pieces to bring in more of those colors. Like this star is more burgundy, and it helps draw in more of that house color to the opposite page. Here's where I start looking at some more chipboard. There are some blue hearts on here I considered, some gold accents as well, but I really didn't settle on much of anything else, really just finishing touches. But here is where I find another piece on the left other side of the chipboard set, and it finishes off my title. I ended up filling in that kind of blank space above that photo with the word love, so we end up having Love Today as our title for this gathering page. To finish it off, I have these rhinestone stars, which work out beautifully for this type of page. But those are the final touches. I hope you guys have enjoyed this page. Here are going to be some close-ups for you. Again, if you want to see more of this album, definitely check out my Patreon. But if you haven't already, go watch Sarah's video. It is a very delicious layout. I've already seen it, and you guys will not want to miss it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy, and let me know what kind of gatherings you're having this summer in the comments down below and what you're looking forward to scrapbook next. But thank you guys so much for watching. Here is our prompt list in case you missed it last time, and we hope you join us. And we'll see you guys next time.